You wake up in ancient Rome's perfume markets, all right. You beautiful time traveler, let's set the stage for an adventure that'll tickle your senses and spark your imagination. Picture yourself cozying up in your favorite spot, maybe with a fluffy blanket, a mug of zesty lemon tea, or a sparkling juice that's practically fizzing with excitement. Tonight, we're not just telling a story, we're diving headfirst into the dazzling, fragrant world of ancient Rome, where perfume wasn't just a spritz. It was a burst of power, a splash of seduction, and a whole lot of swagger. I'm Grok, your enthusiastic guide through this aromatic odyssey, and I'm absolutely thrilled you're here. If you're ready for a wild ride through history, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop a comment about a scent that makes your heart race, because we're about to get swept away in a cloud of fragrance. Now, imagine this. What if you could step into the vibrant streets of ancient Rome, where every whiff was a statement, every scent a story? What if you could wander through markets bursting with exotic oils, where emperors and poets alike chase the perfect perfume? Would you blend in with the perfumed elite, dazzling the crowd with your rose-scented charm, or would you be too busy marveling at the sheer audacity of it all? Grab your imaginary toga, because we're plunging into the glittering chaos of Rome's perfume markets. Settle in, let your senses soar, and let's explore a world where fragrance ruled the empire. You blink, and the world snaps into focus. The sun blazes overhead, its golden rays warming the cobblestone street beneath your feet. Your sandals scratchy, unfamiliar leather scrape against the stone as you take a tentative step. You're not lounging at home, scrolling through your phone or sipping coffee. No, you're standing in the heart of the Forum Boreum, ancient Rome's chaotic cattle market, transformed into a perfume paradise, circa 100 CE. The air is alive, a swirling explosion of scents that hits you like a burst of confetti. It's not just one smell, it's a thousand, colliding in a sensory whirlwind that makes your heart race. Welcome to Rome's perfume markets, where fragrance isn't just a luxury, it's a declaration of ambition, a whisper of allure, a badge of empire. Take a deep breath. Go on, inhale. What do you smell? There's the sweet, intoxicating rush of jasmine wrapping around you like a warm embrace. Then comes the smoky, sacred bite of frankincense, sharp and bold, like a gift for a god with a flair for drama. Myrrh slips in next, bitter and resinous, grounding the sweetness with a rich, earthy depth. And beneath it all, there's something else. Maybe the musky sweat of the crowd, the tangy warmth of olive oil, or the faint whiff of a nearby fish stall that no perfume can fully hide. Your nose tingles, electrified, as you try to untangle the chaos. This isn't a sterile department store counter with neatly labeled bottles. This is Rome, raw and radiant, where scent is a battlefield, and every whiff carries a tale of triumph. You take a step forward, and the market bursts into life around you. To your left, a merchant with a beard like a philosopher's long, tangled and suspiciously glossy waves a tiny glass vial under your nose. Susanum, the finest lily essence, fit for Cleopatra herself, he proclaims, his voice ringing out like a herald announcing victory. His eyes sparkle with the confidence of a man who knows his charm seals the deal. You lean in, curious, and the scent washes over you delicate, floral, with a spicy kick that feels like stumbling into a secret garden in full bloom. Before you can ask questions, he's already pivoting to a passing matron, her stola a vibrant saffron yellow, her hair a towering masterpiece of curls and jeweled pins. She sniffs the vial, nods with approval, and tosses him a coin with a flourish. You're catching on. In Rome, perfume isn't just bought, it's a dazzling performance, a dance of desire and deal-making. To your right, a woman with kohl-lined eyes and a mischievous grin sprinkles rosewater onto a noble's wrist. Her movements are smooth, almost theatrical, as she murmurs something about roses plucked under full moon. The noble, draped in a toga so white it gleams like marble, inhales deeply and beams like he's just conquered Gaul. You catch the scent of the rosewater sweet, crisp, with a faint metallic edge, as if the roses were forged in a smithy. The woman's smile sharpens as she pockets his coins, and you wonder if she's selling fragrance or enchantment. Maybe both. This is Rome. After all, every transaction is a spectacle, and every scent hides a secret. The Forum Boreum is a dazzling whirlwind of color, movement, and aroma. Stalls line the Via Sacra, their awnings fluttering in the warm breeze like banners of a victorious army. Each vendor is a showman, their voices weaving a vibrant chorus that echoes through the crowd. Foliatum, leaves crushed by Vestal virgins, one shouts, and you roll your eyes because, come on, Vestal virgins have better things to do than crush leaves. Another vendor, his hands stained with golden oil, boasts of rhododendron straight from the gardens of Persia. You're pretty sure Persia's a long haul from here, and his gardens might just be a back alley in Ostia, but the crowd eats it up. They lean in, entranced, sniffing vials and haggling with the gusto of gladiators in the arena. You sidestep a cart piled high with dried herbs, its driver muttering curses in a language you can't quite catch. A child darts past, trailing a zesty whiff of cinnamon, all probably swiped from a distracted vendor, and you can't help but grin. This place is a living, breathing tapestry, pulsing with Rome's ambition and exuberance. You pause at a stall where a wiry man stirs a bubbling cauldron of oil over a small brazier. The heat dances on your skin, and the scent saffron, sharp and radiant, like a burst of sunlight makes you feel like you've just inhaled a treasure chest. He catches your eye and winks, his teeth flashing in a grin that's pure charisma. Care to smell like a god? He asks, holding up a clay amphora sealed with wax. Your fingers itch to reach for the vial, tempted by the promise of divinity, but your coin purse empty of course grounds you. Smelling like a god comes with a price tag, and in Rome that price is steep. You shake your head and he shrugs, already turning to a group of giggling young women in colourful tunics. Next, he calls, and the crowd sweeps you along, your sandals scuffing against the cobblestones. Let's talk about that crowd, because it's the heartbeat of this market. You see senators in pristine togas, their slaves trailing behind with baskets overflowing with vials and amphorae. Matrons, their faces glowing with lead-based cosmetics that make you wince, haggle over prices with the precision of master strategists. A group of young men poets, perhaps, or aspiring philosophers lounge against a column, debating whether cyprinum, a musky scent from Cyprus, is too effeminate for their rugged charm. Spoiler, they'll buy it anyway, because in Rome, even thinkers want to smell like influence. Even the plebs, in their rough wool tunics, are here, pooling coins for a shared vial of affordable lavender oil. Everyone's chasing the perfume dream, because in Rome, scent is the great equalizer, well, almost. This market isn't just a place to buy fragrance. It's a vibrant stage where status is crafted with every sniff. You spot a wealthy matron, her hair an architectural wonder of curls and glittering pins, dabbing Susanum behind her ears. She's not just freshening up, she's broadcasting her wealth, her scent proclaiming, "I can afford lilies from Egypt." Across the way, a young man in a crisp toga splashes on foliatum, a green, leafy scent, to catch the eye of a potential patron. His nervous glance at an older man in a purple-trimmed toga hints at high stakes. This is his shot to climb Rome's social ladder. Even the slaves, darting through the crowd with baskets of goods, wear faint traces of Rose's all-cheap knockoffs, sure, but enough to dodge the stench of the stables. You're starting to see it. In Rome, scent isn't just personal, it's a dazzling display of power. And the sheer exuberance of it all. You can't help but laugh at the extravagance. Perfume isn't just dabbed on, it's lavished. Senators drench their togas in rose oil until they leave a fragrant trail through the forum, like peacocks strutting their feathers. Matrons layer on so much jasmine they could charm a lion. Even gladiators, fresh from the arena's sweat and blood, splash on myrrh to woo the crowds before a fight. You picture a hulking warrior pausing mid-battle to spritz himself, and the image is so delightfully absurd you chuckle aloud. A nearby vendor raises an eyebrow, probably thinking you're a bit unhinged, but you don't mind. This is Rome, where brilliance and madness are two sides of the same shiny coin. Yet beneath the glamour lies a sharper truth. The market's vibrancy conceals a reality. Perfume is power, and power has a cost. The ingredients myrrh from Arabia, frankincense from Somalia, saffron from Persia aren't just pricey. They're trophies of Rome's vast empire, symbols of conquest carried across deserts and seas. Every vial tells a story of caravans braving bandits or ships dodging storms. The elite who wear these scents aren't just smelling divine, they're flaunting Rome's dominance on their skin. And you, standing here in your borrowed sandals, are caught in the dazzling whirlwind, a nobody in a world where scent can make or break you. You take another step, and the market pulses around you. A donkey brays, startling you, and a vendor spills a vial of nardinum. cursing as the precious oil seeps into the dust. The crowd surges, carrying you along, your senses swimming in a haze of fragrance. You're not just smelling history, you're living it. The perfume market is a vibrant reflection of Rome's soul. Bold, ambitious, a little over the top, and utterly captivating. And as you weave through the stalls, one question sparkles in your mind. In a world where scent is everything, what would you smell like? The perfume-making process alchemy in a vial, you step away from the dazzling chaos of the Forum Boreum, your senses still buzzing from the whirlwind of jasmine, myrrh, and brazen vendor pitches. The cobblestones under your sandals feel warm, grounding you as you duck under a heavy linen curtain into the cool, shadowy interior of a perfumer's workshop. The air shifts instantly, less frenetic, more intimate, but thick with a musky tang that makes your nose twitch with curiosity. You're no longer just a spectator in Rome's perfume markets. You're about to witness the alchemy that turns raw ingredients into liquid gold. This is where the magic happens, where scent is crafted with the precision of a poet and the audacity of a conqueror. Welcome to the heart of Roman perfume making, where every vial is a masterpiece and every mistake smells like a very expensive oops. The workshop is a small, cluttered sanctuary lit by flickering oil lamps that cast golden shadows on the rough stone walls. Shelves groan under the weight of clay jars, glass vials, and baskets overflowing with dried petals and resins. The air feels alive, heavy with the promise of fragrance, and you can't help but feel like you've stumbled into a sorcerer's lair. At the center of it all is Flavia, a wiry woman with hands stained the color of saffron and a glare that could stop a chariot in its tracks. She's one of Rome's finest Ungantari perfume makers who blends science, art, and a touch of madness to create scents that make emperors swoon and senators spend. She doesn't look up from her work as you slip inside, but her voice cuts through the air like a well-aimed dart. "Don't touch anything," she snaps, "unless you want to smell like a camel's breakfast for a week." You nod, keeping your hands firmly at your sides, but your eyes are already wandering, drinking in the spectacle of her craft. Flavia is hunched over stone mortar, grinding a handful of dried rose petals into a fine powder. The motion is rhythmic, almost hypnotic, and the scent sweet, lush, like a garden in full bloom rises in waves that make your head spin. "The base is everything," she says, her voice softening as she warms to her subject. She pours a stream of olive oil into a clay pot, heating it gently over a small brazier. The oil shimmers, catching the lamplight, and as she stirs in the rose powder, the room fills with a fragrance so rich it's like biting into a flower. In ancient Rome, perfumes weren't the alcohol-based spritzes you'd find in a modern boutique. They were oil-based, thick and clingy, designed to meld with your skin or toga and linger for hours, announcing your presence like a trumpet blast. Olive oil was the canvas, sometimes swapped for almond or grapeseed if you were fancy, but Flavia's no-nonsense approach suggests she sticks to the classics. "Olive oil holds the scent," she explains, "like a lover holds a secret tight, but ready to spill with the right touch." You raise an eyebrow at the metaphor, but she's already moved on, her focus absolute. No cometh, real magic. Flavia reaches for a small jar and scoops out a lump of myrrh, a resin that looks like dark, glistening tears. It's worth more than its weight in gold, harvested from thorny trees in far-off Arabia by traders who brave scorpions and sandstorms for a single haul. Scent is heavy, smoky, with a bitter edge that feels like inhaling a temple ritual. "This," Flavia says, holding it up like a priestess presenting an offering, "is the soul of a perfume. Too much and you smell like a funeral. Too little and you're just oily." She crumbles the myrrh into the pot, stirring slowly, and the aroma deepens, wrapping you in a cloud of mystery. You can see why this stuff was burned for the gods. There's something otherworldly about it, like a whisper from a forgotten myth. You glance at the shelves behind her, and your jaw drops. Jars of frankincense from Somalia, glowing pale gold like frozen sunlight. Tiny pouches of saffron threads from Persia, each one plucked by hand from crocus flowers and worth a small fortune. Vials of balsamum, a resin from Judea so rare that only the emperor could splash it on without a second thought. And then, your eyes widen an empty jar labeled silphium. Flavia catches your stare and chuckles, a low, throaty sound. "Don't get excited," she says. "That plant's gone poof, extinct, over-harvested by greedy fools who wanted its magic." Silphium, you learn, was the rock star of Roman ingredients, a North African herb that smelled like a mix of fennel and heartbreak. It was used in medicine, cooking, and of course perfume, its rarity making it the ultimate status symbol. Smelled like a god's breath, Flavia sighs, but now it's just a memory. You can't help but feel a pang for a scent you'll never know, a fragrant ghost of Rome's excess. The process of making perfume is no simple task. It's a dance of patience, precision, and sheer stubbornness. You watch Flavia soak a fresh batch of rose petals in oil, explaining that they'll sit for days, steeping like tea, until the oil absorbs every drop of their essence. She presses the mixture through fine linen, muttering about lazy apprentices who let bits of petal ruin the clarity. For resins like myrrh or frankincense, she melts them over low heat, stirring until they dissolve into a syrupy liquid that smells like a sacred grove. The room grows warm, the air hazy with steam and fragrance, and you're starting to feel like you're in a perfumed fever dream. Some blends require months of aging, like a fine wine, to reach their peak. Others, like a Crossoname saffron rose mix, are distilled in crude bronze alembics, the ancient equivalent of a chemistry lab. Not just mixing, Flavia says, her eyes glinting. It's taming the chaos of nature into something divine. But let's talk about the chaos, because Roman perfume making wasn't all roses and poetry. Some ingredients are so bizarre you have to stifle a laugh. Flavia points to a jar labeled castoreum, and her grin turns wicked. Beaver glands, she says, relishing your grimace. It's a musky, leathery secretion scraped from the backside of a beaver, used to give perfume staying power. Smells like regret, you think, but Flavia insists it's essential for depth. Then there's ambergris, a waxy lump from whale intestines that washes up on beaches, smelling like the ocean had a midlife crisis, salty, animalistic, but strangely alluring. And don't forget crocodile dung, used as a thickener in some blends. Yes, crocodile dung. You stare at Flavia, wondering if she's pulling your leg, but she just shrugs. The rich want what's rare, she says. If it's disgusting, they'll pay extra. You're not sure whether to be horrified or impressed, but one thing's clear. Romans didn't mess around when it came to scent. The tools are just as fascinating. You spot bronze spatulas, glass stirrers, and tiny scales for measuring saffron to the grain. A clay press sits in the corner, used to squeeze every last drop from soaked herbs. Flavia's hands move like a dancer's, deft and sure, but her muttered curses hint at the frustration of failed batches. Too much myrrh, she grumbles, tossing a spoiled pot aside, and it's like embalming a living person. Too little, and it's just oil. You nod, trying to look like you understand, but the complexity is staggering. Every perfume is a gamble, a balance of art and science that could either win a senator's favor or end up poured down a drain. And the risks. Some ingredients, like lead-based oils, were toxic, slowly poisoning the elite who bathed in them. Allergies were common. Imagine sneezing through a banquet because someone overdid the jasmine. Flavia tells you about a client who broke out in hives from a bad batch of nardinum, blaming her for cursing him. Cursed by his own stupidity, she mutters, rolling her eyes. You can't help but laugh. Flavia's no-nonsense attitude is as potent as her perfumes, but her pride is evident too. A good scent, she says, holding up a finished vial of Susanum, can make a slave feel like a king or a king feel like a god. You look at the vial, its contents glowing in the lamplight, and for a moment you believe her. This isn't just perfume, it's power bottled. As you stand there, surrounded by jars of resins and petals, you realize this workshop is more than a workplace. It's a crucible where Rome's ambitions are distilled into fragrance. Flavia's not just mixing oils. She's crafting dreams, weaving stories that will linger on the skin of poets, patricians, and maybe even you. But as she turns back to her mortar, you catch a glint of mischief in her eye. Want to try your hand at it? She asks, holding out a pestle. You hesitate, knowing one wrong move could ruin a batch worth more than your imaginary toga. What would you create in this scented laboratory? A fragrance fit for an emperor, or a disaster that smells like a camel's breakfast? The societal obsession with scent perfume as power you step back into the dazzling whirl of the Forum Boreum, leaving Flavia's shadowy workshop behind. The sun is still high, painting the cobblestones in golden hues, and the air hums with the vibrant energy of Rome's perfume markets. Your sandals scuff against the warm stone as you weave through the crowd, your senses tingling from the kaleidoscope of scents: jasmine, frankincense, myrrh, and that ever-present hint of olive oil that seems to cling to everything. But as you take in the scene, you realize this isn't just about buying a pretty smell. In ancient Rome, perfume is a language, a weapon, a glittering badge of war or awantobe. The market pulses with ambition, and every whiff tells a story of power, seduction, and just a touch of absurdity. Welcome to a world where scent isn't just a luxury, it's the heartbeat of an empire. Take a moment to look around. The crowd is a tapestry of Rome itself, senators in pristine togas, their purple trim screaming wealth, matrons with towering hairdos, their faces glowing with questionable cosmetics, and scurrying slaves, their tunics dusted with the faint sweetness of cheap rose oil. You spot a woman, her stola a vivid crimson, dabbing Susanum that lily essence Flavia was grinding behind her ears. She's not just freshening up, she's broadcasting her status, her fragrance a silent shout. I can afford the gardens of Egypt. Every move is deliberate, her fingers lingering on the vial as if it's a scepter. Nearby, a young man in a toga so crisp it could cut glass splashes foliatum, a green, leafy scent across his chest. His nervous glance at an older man, probably a patron with a fat coin, Peirce tells you this isn't just about smelling good. It's a calculated move, a fragrant handshake to seal a deal or climb a rung on Rome's slippery social ladder. Scent, you realize, is power in Rome, and power is everything. The elite don't just dab on perfume, they drown in it. Senators drench their togas in rose oil until they leave a shimmering trail through the forum, like peacocks strutting in a perfumed parade. Matrons layer on so much jasmine you could find them blindfolded in a crowd of thousands. Even gladiators, those sweaty, scarred heroes of the arena splash on myrrh before a fight, hoping to charm the roaring crowds or maybe just mask the smell of blood and sand. You can't help but grin at the thought of a hulking warrior pausing to spritz himself mid-battle, his sword in one hand and a vial of cyprinum in the other. It's absurd, but that's Rome, where the line between grandeur and ridiculousness is as thin as a papyrus scroll. Why this obsession? Let's step back and think about it. Rome in 100 CE is a sensory assault. The streets are packed, merchants shouting, donkeys braying, and open sewers reminding everyone that plumbing is more aspiration than reality. The fish markets down by the Tiber waft their own special aroma, and don't even get started on the crowds in the Subura, where a bath is more rumor than routine. Perfume isn't just a luxury, it's armor, a fragrant shield against the city's stench. You watch a merchant wrinkle his nose as a cart of overripe figs rolls by, then douse himself in rhododendron like it's a matter of survival. He's not wrong. In a city where smells can choke you, a good scent is your ticket to respectability, a way to say, I'm above the chaos. But it's more than that. Perfume is a social hierarchy you can smell. The richer you are, the more exotic your scent. You notice a senator, his toga heavy with the smoky weight of frankincense, striding past like he owns the forum. That scent didn't come cheap. It's a trophy of trade routes stretching to Somalia, proof of Rome's reach across deserts and seas. A matron nearby, her hair glittering with gold pins, reeks of balsamum, a resin so rare it costs more than a villa. She tosses her head, and the fragrance wafts over you, warm and resinous, like a forest caught fire in the best way. Meanwhile, the plebs the everyday Roman Cynthia rough wool tunics make do with diluted lavender or knockoff myrrh, bought in chipped clay pots from the shadier stalls. Even they want in on the game, pooling coins for a shared vial to wear at a festival. Everyone, from emperor to street vendor, is chasing the same dream, to smell like they belong. The marketing is where it gets gloriously over the top. You pause at a stall where a vendor, his hands stained with oil, holds up a vial like it's the holy grail. Nardinum, spikenard from the mountains of India, kissed by the gods, he proclaims, and the crowd leans in mesmerized. You're pretty sure kissed by the gods is a stretch, but the name alone Nardinum sounds like poetry, and that's half the sell. Perfume names in Rome are pure flair, Susanum for lilies, rhododendron for roses, crossinum for saffron's golden glow. Each one promises a piece of divinity, a whiff of far-off lands. Vendors don't just sell scent, they sell stories. This myrrh wept for Adonis himself, one shouts, and you roll your eyes because really. But the crowd eats it up, tossing coins like they're buying a ticket to Elysium. You can't blame them, it's hard to resist a good tale, especially when it smells like paradise. The containers are just as extravagant. You spot delicate glass vials, their colors catching the sunlight: emerald, sapphire, amber. Some are alabaster, smooth as marble, carved with tiny vines or nymphs. The fanciest ones come in seashells, polished to a gleam, or bronze boxes sealed with wax to prove they're the real deal. Counterfeits are a problem, though. You overhear a matron muttering about a vendor who sold her Persian saffron that turned out to be dyed olive oil. The scandal. She's already plotting to spread the word at the next banquet, ensuring the vendor's name is mud by sundown. You have to admire the drama. Romans don't just buy perfume, they live for the gossip it sparks. Perfume isn't just personal, it's everywhere. You imagine a banquet, the air thick with rosewater spritzed from silver bowls to keep the guests from gagging on each other's unwashed togas. Temples burn frankincense, sending smoky prayers to the gods, while theaters drizzle Susanum to calm rowdy crowds. Weddings are drenched in rose oil, a symbol of love and fertility, while funerals lean hard on myrrh to mask the inevitable. Even the military gets in on it. Soldiers rub mint oil on their skin before battle, believing it brings courage, or at least makes them smell less like fear. You chuckle at the image of a legion charging into war, smelling like a herb garden in full bloom. It's ridiculous, but it's Rome, where scent is ritual, identity, and a little bit of magic. But let's not pretend it's all roses and glory. There's a dark side to this obsession. Some perfumes, laced with lead or other toxins, are slowly poisoning the elite who bathe in them. You wince as a matron slathers on a shimmering oil that looks suspiciously metallic. Beauty comes at a price, and she's paying it in more ways than one. Allergies are another issue. You overhear a poet complaining about a rash from overzealous jasmine, his dramatic sighs earning eye rolls from his friends. And the rivalries. Vendors are cutthroat, undercutting prices or spreading rumors about inferior ingredients. You catch two merchants bickering nearby. Your myrrh smells like a donkey's dinner. One snaps. The other fires back. At least I don't sell pond scum as rosewater. It's like watching a verbal duel, and you're half tempted to grab a vial and join the fray. The obsession shapes Rome in ways you didn't expect. Perfume isn't just a product, it's a cultural force. It defines banquets, where the host's choice of scent sets the tone. Too cheap, and you're a laughingstock. Too lavish, and you're showing off. It fuels romance, with lovers exchanging vials as tokens of devotion, each one a promise wrapped in fragrance. It even touches politics. Senators use scent to curry favor, gifting rare oils to sway votes. You realize perfume is Rome's secret weapon, a way to navigate the city's chaos with a single, well-placed whiff. And as you stand in the market, surrounded by the glittering crowd, you can't help but wonder, what scent would you choose to make your mark in this fragrant empire? Perfumers as chaos agents, you're back in the dazzling swirl of the Forum Boreum, the sun glinting off glass vials, and the air buzzing with a heady mix of jasmine, myrrh, and ambition. The market is a living, breathing spectacle, but it's the people, the perfumers, who make it truly unforgettable. These aren't just artisans mixing oils, they're chaos agents, alchemists of scent who stir up innovation, rivalry, and a whole lot of drama. Their workshops are battlegrounds, their vials weapons, and their stories the kind that linger like a bold fragrance on a senator's toga. As you weave through the crowd, your sandals kicking up dust, you're about to meet the masterminds behind Rome's perfume craze, people like Lucius and Cornelia, whose audacity and artistry make the market pulse with life. Get ready to dive into their world, where every scent is a scheme, and every perfumer is a legend in the making. First, let's meet Lucius, a freedman who's clawed his way from slavery to become Rome's most infamous unguentarius. You spot him at the edge of the market, his stall draped in purple cloth, a bold choice for someone born in chains. His presence is magnetic, his grin sharp as a gladiator's blade, and his hands move with the flair of a performer tossing saffron into a bubbling pot. Nardinum, spikenard from the peaks of India, he proclaims, holding up a vial that catches the sunlight like a jewel. The crowd, senators' wives, merchants, even a curious poet leans in, captivated by his voice, which drips with charm and just a hint of mischief. This, he says, winking at a matron with a towering hairdo, will make Venus herself jealous. She giggles, coins change hands, and you can't help but admire the hustle. Lucius isn't just selling perfume, he's selling a dream, and the dream smells divine. Lucius's story is pure Roman ambition. Born a slave in a provincial backwater, he learned the perfume trade from a Greek apothecary in Ostia, memorizing recipes while scrubbing floors. Freed by a generous or careless master, he turned his knack for scents into a small empire, one vial at a time. His signature blend, Nardinum, is a heady mix of spikenard musky, earthy herb from India with hints of rose and myrrh. It's the kind of scent that makes you feel like you're walking through a palace garden, even if you're stuck in a crowded insula. The elite love it, paying obscene sums to smell like Eastern royalty, and Lucius knows exactly how to play them. He claims his recipes come from Egyptian priests, whispering tales of ancient rituals to seal the deal. You're pretty sure he made it all up, but the crowd doesn't care. They're too busy sniffing their way to status. But Lucius is no saint. Whispers in the market say he cuts corners, swapping real spikenard for cheaper herbs when supplies run low. If they think it's spikenard, he told a skeptical apprentice once, his grin unapologetic. You catch him now, tossing a vial to a young man in a pristine toga, who sniffs it and nods like he's just been knighted. Lucius winks at you, as if you're in on the con, and you can't help but laugh. The man's a chaos agent, stirring up desire and drama with every sale. When a rival accuses him of watering down his balsamum, Lucius just laughs, loud enough for the whole market to hear. My balsamum could charm a god, he retorts, and the crowd roars with approval. You're starting to see why he's a legend. Lucius doesn't just make perfume, he makes waves. Now, let's cross the market to meet Cornelia, a rare female unguentaria who runs a workshop near the gritty Subura, where the streets are as rough as the people. You spot her behind a stall piled high with clay pots, her hands scarred from years of grinding resins and her eyes sharp as a hawk's. Cornelia's no showboat like Lucius. She's all business, her stola practical and stained with oil. She's stirring a batch of Susanum, the lily-based perfume that's the darling of Rome's matrons, and the scent wafts over you like a summer breeze, delicate, but with a spicy cinnamon kick that makes your heart skip. Move along if you're not buying, she snaps, barely glancing up, but there's a twinkle in her eye that suggests she's not as gruff as she seems. Cornelia's story is one of grit and defiance. Women in Rome's perfume trade are rare, but she's carved out a name for herself through sheer talent and a refusal to back down. She learned the craft from her father, a perfumer who lost everything to gambling debts, leaving her to rebuild the family name. Her Susanum is legendary, blending lily petals with a secret dash of cinnamon that sets it apart from the competition. Anyone can crush lilies, she says, grinding petals with a stone pestle. It's the spark that makes it unforgettable. That spark has made her a favorite among Rome's elite women who whisper her name at banquets like it's a sacred incantation. But Cornelia's not here for flattery, she's here to win. Her workshop is a fortress of focus, tucked in a narrow alley where the noise of the Subura fades to a hum. You imagine her there, surrounded by jars of rosewater and myrrh, her hands moving with the precision of a surgeon. She's fiercely protective of her recipes, once chasing a rival's apprentice out of her shop with a ladle after he tried to snoop. Steal my secrets, and you'll smell like regret, she shouted, and the stories become market legend. You can't help but grin. She's a chaos agent in her own right, turning the perfume trade into a battlefield where she's both warrior and general. Her rivals call her stubborn, but her customers call her a genius, and you're inclined to agree with the latter. These perfumers aren't just mixing oils, they're shaping Rome's culture. Lucius's Nardinum is the scent of ambition, worn by senators sealing political deals or poets wooing patrons. Cornelia's Susanum is the fragrance of defiance, a favorite at weddings where brides want to shine brighter than their grooms. Their creations define the city's rituals, banquets drenched in rose oil, funerals heavy with myrrh, temples smoky with frankincense. But their influence comes with drama. Lucius and Cornelia are locked in a quiet war, each accusing the other of inferior ingredients. You overhear a customer gossiping about a batch of Lucius's rhododendron that smelled suspiciously like diluted wine. Cornelia, meanwhile, faced a scandal when a rival claimed her cinnamon was just ground bark, lies, of course, but the rumor strung. Let them talk, she told you once, her voice low and fierce. My perfume speaks louder. Their rivalries drive innovation, though. Lucius experiments with bold blends, like mint and myrrh, for a warrior's scent that's starting to catch on with soldiers. Cornelia pushes boundaries with her cinnamon lily mix, tweaking it to last longer on sweaty Roman skin. Their competition forces them to source rarer ingredient spikenard from farther east, saffron from new Persian traders pushing Rome's trade routes to their limits. But it's not just about the scents. Lucius and Cornelia are storytellers, weaving tales of exotic origins to sell their wares. Lucius's Egyptian priest shtick is pure theatre, but it works. Cornelia, more subtle, lets her perfume do the talking, but her customers swear they can smell her defiance in every drop. The drama doesn't stop at rivalries. Perfumers like Lucius and Cornelia are tangled in Rome's web of power. Lucius once gifted a vial of balsamum to a senator's wife, hoping to secure a contract for a temple festival. It worked, but the senator's rival spread rumors that the perfume was cursed classic Roman shade. Cornelia, meanwhile, nearly lost her workshop when a jealous competitor bribed a magistrate to inspect her supplies. She fought back, proving her ingredients were pure, and the magistrate ended up buying her Susanum for his mistress. You have to laugh. Rome's perfume trade is a soap opera, and these chaos agents are the stars. As you watch Lucius charm another customer and Cornelia grind her next batch, you realize they're more than perfumers, they're architects of Rome's soul. Their scents linger in the air of banquets, battles, and betrayals, shaping how Romans see themselves and each other. Lucius, with his flashy grin and questionable ethics, is the market's showman, turning fragrance into fame. Cornelia, with her scarred hands and steely resolve, is its heart, crafting scents that defy the odds. Together, they're rewriting Rome, one vial at a time. And as you stand there, caught in their orbit, you can't help but wonder, if you were a perfumer in this chaotic world, what kind of chaos would you stir up? Ingredients and processes, dramatic descriptions. You're drawn back to Flavia's workshop. The vibrant chaos of the Forum Boreum fading as you slip through the heavy linen curtain once more. The air inside is cooler, thicker, a heady swirl of scents that feels like stepping into a dream woven from flowers and fire. The golden flicker of oil lamps dances across stone walls, illuminating shelves crammed with jars, vials, and baskets brimming with mysterious treasures. Flavia, the sharp-tongued Unguentaria with hands stained by years of her craft, is at work again, her movements precise yet fierce, like a general commanding an army of aromas. You're not just here to watch, you're here to witness the alchemy of Roman perfume making, where raw ingredients from the edges of the empire are transformed into fragrances that could seduce a god or bankrupt a senator. Every jar holds a story, every process a spectacle, and you're about to dive into the dazzling, sometimes bizarre heart of it all. Flavia glances at you, her eyes narrowing as if weighing whether you're worthy of her secrets. "Don't expect me to hand you a recipe," she says, her voice a mix of pride and warning. "This isn't cooking lentils, it's capturing the soul of the world." You nod, keeping your distance from the cluttered workbench, where a clay pot simmers over a small brazier, its contents shimmering like liquid gold. The scent hits you first, Rose, lush and intoxicating, like a garden blooming under a midday sun. Flavia's working on a batch of rhododendron, a rose-based perfume that's the darling of Rome's elite. She stirs the pot with a bronze spatula, her hands steady despite the heat prickling the air. "Oil is the foundation," she explains, pouring a stream of olive oil into the mix. "Without it, you've got nothing but dreams. In Rome, perfumes aren't the light, alcohol-based sprays of your world, they're thick, oily elixirs that cling to skin and toga, announcing your presence like a fanfare. Olive oil, sometimes swapped for almond or grapeseed for the truly fancy, is the canvas on which these masterpieces are painted. But it's the ingredients that steal the show, each one a glittering trophy of Rome's sprawling empire. You follow Flavia's gaze to a shelf where a small jar catches the lamplight, its contents dark and glistening like frozen tears. "Myrrh," she says, almost reverently, scooping out a lump and holding it up. It's a resin harvested from thorny trees in distant Arabia, where traders brave scorching deserts and venomous scorpions to collect it. The scent is heavy, smoky, with a bitter edge that feels like inhaling a sacred ritual gone slightly wild. "This is the heart of a good perfume," Flavia declares, crumbling the myrrh into the pot. "It's what makes you smell like you've walked through a temple or a tomb, if you're not careful." You lean in, the aroma wrapping around you like a velvet cloak, mysterious and a little haunting. Myrrh was worth more than gold, burned for gods and kings, and you can see why there's something eternal about it, like a whisper from the edge of the world. Next, Flavia reaches for a jar of frankincense, pale and golden, like pebbles of solidified sunlight. It comes from Somalia, carried across treacherous seas by merchants who dodge pirates for a single haul. The scent is warm, woody, with a resinous depth that makes you feel like you're floating in a sacred grove. Flavia uses it sparingly, grinding it into a fine powder before adding it to her mix. Too much frankincense, she warns, and you'll smell like a priest mid-sermon. Too little, and you're just another oily Roman. You nod, trying not to sneeze as she waves a lump under your nose, its aroma sharp and divine. Frankincense was the darling of temples, burned to honor Jupiter or Venus, but in Flavia's hands, it's a weapon of seduction, blended with lighter oils to keep it from overwhelming the senses. Then there's saffron, the diva of the bunch. Flavia opens a tiny pouch, revealing threads so delicate they look like they could float away. Each one is plucked by hand from crocus flowers in Persia, a process so laborious it takes thousands to make a single ounce. The scent is warm, slightly sweet, with an earthy richness that screams luxury. This, Flavia says, her voice low with respect, is worth more than a senator's ego. She measures out a pinch on a tiny bronze scale, her hands trembling slightly, not from nerves, but from the sheer value of what she's holding. Saffron is the star of her crossinum, a blend that mixes its golden glow with rose oil to create a fragrance so potent it could make Cleopatra jealous. You inhale, and it's like tasting sunlight, bright, bold, and a little extravagant. No wonder the elite pay fortunes for it. One whiff, and you feel like you could rule the forum. But not every ingredient is so glamorous. Your eyes land on a jar labeled castoreum, and Flavia's grin turns positively devilish. Beaver glands, she says, enjoying your grimace. It's a musky, leathery secretion scraped from the backside of a beaver, used to give perfume staying power. The smell is intense, like leather left too long in the sun, but there's an odd allure to it, a primal edge that makes a scent linger. You moderns are so squeamish, Flavia chuckles, though you're pretty sure she's judging you. Then there's ambergris, a waxy lump from whale intestines that washes up on distant shores. It smells like the ocean through a tantrum, salty, animalistic, but strangely captivating. Flavia calls it the sea's gift, but you're thinking it's more like the sea's midlife crisis. And don't forget crocodile dung, used as a thickener in some blends. You stare at her, half expecting a joke, but she just shrugs. The rich love what's rare, she says. If it's disgusting, they'll pay double. You're torn between horror and admiration. Romans really will stop at nothing for a good scent. The processes are just as dramatic as the ingredients. You watch Flavia macerate rose petals in hot oil, a slow dance that takes days to coax out every drop of fragrance. She presses the mixture through fine linen, muttering curses about grit that could ruin a batch. One speck, she says, and it's like serving wine with dirt in it. For resins like myrrh, she melts them over low heat, stirring until they dissolve into a syrupy liquid that smells like a forest fire in a temple. The air grows hazy, warm with steam and fragrance, and you feel like you're caught in a perfumed trance. Some blends, like her Susanum, require cold infusion herbs steeped in oil for weeks, like brewing a potion under moonlight. Others are distilled in crude bronze alembics, the ancient version of a chemistry lab, their pipes hissing with effort. It's not just mixing, Flavia says, her eyes glinting. It's wrestling nature into submission. The tools are a spectacle in themselves. You spot bronze spatulas, polished to a gleam, and glass stirrers delicate enough to snap under a clumsy hand. Tiny scales measure saffron to the grain, each movement precise as a poet choosing words. A clay press looms in the corner, used to squeeze oil from soaked petals, its wooden handle worn smooth by years of use. Flavia's hands move like a dancer's, deft and sure, but her grumbled complaints tell a different story. Last week, an apprentice overheated the myrrh, she says, tossing a spoiled pot aside. Smelled like a burnt offering gone wrong. You wince, imagining the cost of that mistake. A week's wages, maybe more. Every batch is a gamble, a delicate balance of heat, time, and instinct that could either crown a perfumer's reputation or send it up in smoke. There's danger in the craft, too. Some ingredients, like lead-based oils, are toxic, slowly poisoning the elite who slather them on. Flavia tells you about a matron who went dizzy from her balsamum, blaming evil spirits when it was probably just bad chemistry. Allergies are another risk. Imagine sneezing through a banquet because someone's laudanum was too potent. Flavia's seen it all, from rashes to ruined reputations. Perfume's a risk, she says, holding up a finished vial of Crossinum, its golden glow catching the light. But so is life in Rome. You look at the vial, its contents shimmering like a promise, and feel a spark of awe. This isn't just fragrance, it's ambition, bottled and ready to conquer. As Flavia returns to her work, you can't help but wonder, if you could blend your own perfume, what wild, dazzling ingredients would you choose? Social scenes markets as sanctuaries. You step out of Flavia's workshop, the heady warmth of her simmering oils giving way to the vibrant pulse of the Forum Boreum. The sun bathes the cobblestones in golden light, and the air crackles with the energy of Rome's perfume markets, a dazzling chaos of scents, shouts, and shimmering ambition. Your sandals scuff against the warm stone as you weave through the crowd, your senses alight with jasmine, frankincense, and the faint tang of olive oil that seems to cling to every toga. But this market isn't just a place to buy a vial of Susanum or haggle over saffron. It's a sanctuary, a glittering escape from Rome's gritty reality, where scent transforms the ordinary into the divine. Here, in the heart of the empire, the perfume market is a stage where every Roman senator, matron, or pleb plays a part in a fragrant drama. Welcome to the social whirlwind, where smells shape status, spark gossip, and make the city feel alive. The Forum Boreum is a riot of color and movement, its stalls lining the Via Sacra like a parade of treasures. Awnings flutter in the breeze, their reds and blues casting playful shadows on the crowd. Vials of glass and alabaster gleam in the sunlight, their contents rosewater, myrrh, nardinum promising a whiff of paradise. You pause to take it all in, and the scene feels like a painting come to life. A merchant with a grin as wide as the Tiber holds up a vial of rhododendron, his voice soaring over the chatter. Roses from the gardens of Persia, he boasts, and you raise an eyebrow because, really, Persia's a long way off. But the crowd leans in, captivated, their coins glinting as they reach for his wares. Another vendor, his hands stained with saffron, sprinkles Crossinum on a passing noble's wrist, his pitch smooth as the oil itself. "Smell like Cleopatra," he declares, and the nobler man in a toga so white it could blind you nods like he's already half seduced. This isn't just commerce, it's theatre, and every vendor is a star. You weave through the crowd, dodging a donkey laden with clay amphorae, its driver muttering curses under his breath. A child darts past, trailing a zesty whiff of cinnamon, all probably swiped from a distracted stall, and you can't help but smile. The market is a microcosm of Rome's soul, where every face tells a story. You see senators, their togas edged with purple, the slaves trailing behind with baskets piled high with vials. Matrons, their hair sculpted into towering curls and glittering with jeweled pins, haggle with the precision of generals, their voices sharp but playful. Group of young men poets or wannabe philosophers, judging by their dramatic gestures, lounge against a column, debating whether Cyprinum's musky edge is too feminine for their rugged vibe. Spoiler, they'll buy it anyway, because in Rome, even dreamers want to smell like power. Even the plebs in their rough wool tunics are here, pooling coins for a shared vial of cheap lavender oil, their laughter as bright as the sun overhead. Everyone's chasing the perfume dream, because in this city, scent is a ticket to belonging. The market isn't just a place to shop. It's a sanctuary, a fragrant refuge from Rome's relentless chaos. The city is a sensory assault. Crowded streets, open sewers, fish stalls by the Tiber that could make a statue gag. Perfume is more than a luxury here. It's a shield, a way to rise above the stench and stake your claim in the empire's glittering hierarchy. You watch a merchant wrinkle his nose as a cart of overripe figs rolls by, then douse himself in foliatum, its green, leafy scent cutting through the air like a fresh breeze. He's not just smelling good, he's declaring, "I'm better than this." And he's not alone. Every Roman, from the elite to the everyday, comes to the market to escape the city's grit and wrap themselves in a fragrant fantasy. It's as if the Forum Boreum is a sacred space, where scent transforms the mundane into the magical, turning a sweaty pleb into a perfumed prince for a day. The social dynamics are electric. You notice a matron, her stola a vivid crimson, dabbing Susanum behind her ears with a flourish. She's not just freshening up, she's performing her fragrance a bold statement. I can afford lilies from Egypt. The crowd parts for her, their eyes lingering on her glittering pins and the faint floral cloud trailing in her wake. Nearby, a young man in a crisp toga splashes nardinum across his chest, his nervous glance at an older man in a purple-trimmed toga suggesting a high-stakes moment. Maybe he's angling for a patron, a job, or a favor, whatever it is. His scent is his armor, his way of saying, I'm worth noticing. Even the slaves, scurrying through the crowd with baskets of goods, wear faint traces of rose, all cheap imitations, sure, but enough to dodge the stench of the stables. You're starting to see it. In Rome, perfume isn't just personal. It's a dazzling dance of status and survival. The market is also a gossip hub where scandals are born faster than you can say balsamum. You overhear a matron whispering to her friend about a rival who overdid the myrrh at a banquet, her voice dripping with glee. She smelled like a funeral pyre, she says, and the friend cackles, already planning to spread the tale. Another rumor swirls about a senator caught buying counterfeit crossinum, the shame of it. His reputation took a hit, and the vendor who sold it is now dodging angry customers. You can't help but laugh. Rome's perfume market is a soap opera, with every vial a potential plot twist. Vendors fuel the drama, spreading whispers about competitors, inferior ingredients, or cursed batches. One stall owner, his beard gleaming with oil, leans in to tell a customer that his rival's rhododendron is just boiled weeds. The customer gasps, and you're pretty sure the story will be all over the forum by sundown. It's deliciously absurd, like a reality show with better sense and worse hygiene. The cultural impact of the market runs deep. Perfume shapes Rome's rituals in ways you didn't expect. You imagine a wedding, the bride drenched in rose oil, her fragrance a symbol of love and fertility, her every step leaving a floral trail. At funerals, myrrh hangs heavy in the air, masking the inevitable and honoring the dead with a scent fit for the gods. Temples burn frankincense, its smoky prayers rising to Jupiter, while theaters spritz Susanum to keep rowdy crowds from rioting over the smell of unwashed togas. Even gladiators get in on it, rubbing mint oil on their skin before a fight, believing it brings courage or at least makes their victories smell sweeter. You chuckle at the thought of a hulking warrior, fresh from slaying a lion, pausing to douse himself in cyprinum like he's heading to a fancy dinner. It's ridiculous, but it's Rome where scent is woven into every moment, from love to death to glory. The market's role as a sanctuary extends beyond the elite. For the plebs, it's a place to dream. You watch a group of labourers, their tunics patched and dusty, pool their coins for a tiny vial of lavender oil. They pass it around, each taking a careful dab, their faces lighting up as if they've just touched divinity. For a moment, they're not just workers, they're part of Rome's fragrant tapestry. They sent a small rebellion against their daily grind. The market gives them that, a chance to escape the city's chaos and feel like they belong to something bigger. It's a fleeting magic, but it's real, and you can see why they keep coming back week after week to chase that perfumed promise. As you stand there, surrounded by the glittering crowd, you realize the Forum Boreum is more than a market. It's a mirror of Rome's heart. It's where ambition meets artistry, where gossip fuels glory, where a single scent can make you feel like a god. The vendors, the buyers, the scents themselves there, all part of a dazzling dance that keeps the city alive. And as you breathe in the air, thick with roses and ivory, you can't help but wonder, if you could step onto this fragrant stage, what role would you play and what scent would you wear to shine? Public reactions, scandals and changes, you're standing once more in the glittering chaos of the Forum Boreum, the heart of Rome's perfume markets, where the air dances with jasmine, myrrh, and the electric buzz of ambition. The sun glints off glass vials, and the crowd hums with energy, each Roman chasing a scent that promises power, allure, or just a fleeting escape from the city's stench. But beneath the dazzling surface, there's a current of drama, whispers of scandal, gasps of outrage, and the slow churn of change that keeps this fragrant world spinning. The public's love for perfume is fierce, but it's not without its complaints, controversies, and transformations. As you weave through the stalls, your sandals kicking up dust, you're about to dive into the wild reactions, juicy scandals, and evolving tides that make Rome's perfume trade as unpredictable as a chariot race. Buckle up, because this is where the story gets delightfully messy. The crowd's obsession with perfume is palpable, a fever that grips everyone from senators to street vendors. You watch a matron, her stola shimmering with gold thread, douse herself in Susanum, the lily-scented elixir that's the talk of every banquet. She doesn't just dab it on, she lavishes it, her wrists and neck gleaming with oil, as if she's trying to outshine the sun itself. The scent trails behind her like a royal banner, and heads turn, some with awe, others with barely concealed smirks. Nearby, a young poet in a slightly frayed toga splashes nardinum across his chest, hoping to catch the eye of a wealthy patron. His enthusiasm is infectious, but you overhear a grizzled merchant muttering, "Another fool drowning in spikenard, he'll smell like a temple and still go hungry." The public loves their perfumes, but they're not shy about judging those who overdo it. In Rome, excess is a way of life, but it's also a target for gossip. That gossip is the market's lifeblood, and it flows faster than the Tiber. You pause near a stall where a group of matrons huddle, their voices low but sharp as they dissect a rival's latest scent choice. "She drenched herself in myrrh at the last banquet," one says, her eyes glinting with mischief. "Smelled like she was ready for her own funeral." The others laugh, their jeweled pins catching the light as they plot to spread the tale at the next social gathering. Perfume isn't just a status symbol, it's a lightning rod for critique. You overhear a poet complaining about a senator who stank of cheap rosewater at a reading, as if the scent betrayed his lack of taste more than his politics. Even the plebs get in on it, snickering about a local magistrate who spent a fortune on balsamum only to spill half the vial on his toga. "Looked like he bathed in it," one says, and you can't help but grin at the image. Rome's love for perfume is matched only by its love for tearing each other down over it. But the reactions aren't all laughter and shade. Some Romans are downright fed up with the perfume craze. You catch a grizzled vendor, his tunic stained with oil, grumbling about over-perfumed patricians who make his stall smell like a brothel. "I can't breathe for all the jasmine," he snaps, waving a hand as if to clear the air. He's got a point. Some elites take it to extremes, pouring entire vials of rhododendron on their hair before a banquet, leaving guests choking on floral fumes. You imagine a dining room thick with competing scents, like a fragrant battlefield where no one wins. The excess led to a short-lived law under Emperor Domitian, limiting perfume use at public events to preserve decorum. Spoiler: no one listened. You can almost hear the senators laughing as they doused themselves in crossinum, daring the authorities to sniff them out. In Rome, rules are more suggestion than mandate, especially when scent is involved. Now, let's talk scandals, because the perfume market thrives on them. One of the juiciest involves a perfumer named Gaius, a rival of Lucius from the market's flashier stalls. Gaius was notorious for his authentic silphium oil, a perfume made from the now extinct North African plant that was once Rome's most coveted ingredient. The problem: silphium had been gone for decades, over-harvested into oblivion. Gaius, undeterred, sold vials of silphium essence to unsuspecting customers, including a prominent priestess of Vesta. When she realized it was just fennel oil dyed yellow, the fallout was spectacular. "Blasphemy," she declared, and an angry mob trashed Gaius's stall, scattering his vials across the cobblestones. Gaius fled to Gaul, leaving behind a trail of broken glass and furious customers. You can't help but laugh. Imagine the audacity of passing off fennel as a lost legend. The scandal rocked the market, with customers double-checking every vial for months, and you can still hear whispers of Gaius the fraud in the stalls. Another scandal, dubbed the poison perfume panic of 50 CE, was even wilder. Rumors spread that a batch of Crocynum Saffron's golden darling was laced with hemlock, the deadly poison that took out Socrates. It started when a senator collapsed at a banquet, his toga reeking of saffron, and panic swept the forum. Matrons swore off Crocynum, vendors saw their sales plummet, and perfumers like Flavia were forced to prove their oils were safe. The truth: the senator had just drunk too much wine, but the damage was done. Saffron prices tanked for months, and Flavia still curses the idiot who started that rumor. You can picture her, hands on hips, glaring at the market as if daring anyone to question her craft. The panic faded, but it left a mark. Romans loved their perfumes, but they didn't trust them blindly. These scandals weren't just gossip, they changed the market. You notice vendors now boasting about pure ingredients, showing off wax seals, or letting customers sniff raw resins to prove authenticity. Flavia, for one, keeps a lump of myrrh on her stall, inviting skeptics to test it themselves. If it smells like a temple, it's real, she says, and you're pretty sure she's enjoying the challenge. The Gaius fiasco pushed perfumers to source rarer ingredients, like spikenard from farther east, to regain trust. It also sparked a wave of innovation. New blends, like mint with myrrh or lavender with cinnamon, emerged to tempt wary buyers. You can almost see Lucius, ever the opportunist, pitching his warrior's scent to soldiers, claiming it's untouched by poison. The market's drama, it turns out, is a crucible for creativity. The perfume trade itself was evolving, shaped by Rome's relentless appetite for scent. By the 2nd century CE, the demand for exotic oils was straining trade routes, driving up prices and pushing perfumers to get creative. You hear tales of merchants sailing to new ports in India for cheaper saffron or braving bandit-filled deserts for frankincense. Glass-blowing advancements meant fancier vials, emerald, sapphire, even ruby red, making perfume a visual status symbol as much as a scented one. You spot a stall displaying a seashell-shaped bottle, its contents shimmering like a promise, and you understand why customers pay extra for the packaging. It's not just about the scent, it's about the spectacle. But change wasn't just about trade or tech, it was cultural too. As Christianity began to spread, some priests frowned on pagan scents like frankincense, tied to old gods like Jupiter. Perfumers adapted, focusing on secular blends like rose or mint to keep their stalls busy. You can imagine Flavia rolling her eyes at the newfangled nonsense, muttering about the good old days when a whiff of myrrh was enough to win a crowd. Lucius, ever the pragmatist, probably jumped on the trend, marketing Christian-friendly lavender as the scent of humility, though you're sure he charged a fortune for it. The market bent but didn't break, finding ways to thrive amid shifting beliefs. The public's reactions, scandals, and changes paint a vivid picture of Rome's perfume obsession. It's a world where love for scent fuels both devotion and distrust, where a single vial can spark a scandal or start a revolution. As you stand in the Forum Boreum, watching a matron haggle over rhodanine and a vendor dodge accusations of diluted oil, you realize this market is Rome in miniature, chaotic, ambitious, and gloriously absurd. The scandals may fade, but the thirst for fragrance endures, driving the city forward one daring blend at a time. And as you breathe in the perfumed air, you can't help but wonder, in this world of fragrant drama, what scandal would you spark with your own signature scent? The lasting legacy of Roman perfumes, the Forum Boreum, is winding down now, the sun dipping low, casting long shadows across the cobblestones. The vibrant chaos of Rome's perfume market softens to a gentle hum, but the air still shimmers with the lingering traces of jasmine, myrrh, and saffron, a fragrant echo of the empire's ambition. You stand amidst the stalls, your sandals dusted with market grime, your senses tingling from the whirlwind of scents and stories you've encountered. From Flavia's alchemical workshop to Lucius's flashy hustles, from the gossip-fueled scandals to the dazzling social scenes, you've seen how perfume was more than a luxury in ancient Rome. It was the pulse of a civilization. As you take one last deep breath, inhaling the fading notes of rhododendron and frankincense, you realize this isn't just a story of the past. The legacy of Rome's perfumes stretches far beyond these bustling stalls, shaping history, culture, and even the way we chase scents today. Let's linger here, in the golden twilight, and explore the fragrant footprint Rome left on the world. Step back and think about the market around you. Every vial of Susanum, every jar of Nardinum, represents a thread in a vast tapestry of trade and conquest. The myrrh that Flavia crumbled into her pots didn't just appear, it was carried across scorching Arabian deserts by caravans dodging bandits and sandstorms. The frankincense that made senators smell like gods sailed from Somalia, braving pirate-infested waters. Saffron, those delicate golden threads, came from Persian fields, each one plucked by hand in a labor so meticulous it could make a poet weep. These ingredients weren't just scents, they were trophies of Rome's empire, proof of its reach across continents. The perfume trade didn't just make Romans smell good, it stitched together a global network. laying the groundwork for commerce that would echo through the centuries. You imagine merchants in far-off ports, haggling over resins while dreaming of Roman coins, and you realize the Forum Boreum was a hub in a world-spanning web, connecting cultures through the language of scent. That web didn't vanish with Rome's fall. The trade routes forged for myrrh and frankincense became lifelines for medieval merchants, carrying spices, silks, and ideas across continents. You picture a Byzantine trader, centuries later, sniffing a vial of rose oil and nodding, unaware he's following in Lucius's footsteps. The perfume market's hunger for exotic ingredients pushed explorers to sail farther, map new lands, and chase the next big scent. In a way, Rome's obsession with perfume helped chart the world, linking east to west in a fragrant chain that still holds today. Next time you spritz on a modern perfume, with its notes of oud or amber, you're catching a faint whiff of Rome's legacy, a reminder that every scent carries a story of adventure and ambition. The craft itself left a mark, too. Flavia's meticulous processes macerating petals, melting resins, distilling oils in crude alembics were more than recipes. They were blueprints for future generations. Medieval apothecaries, hunched over their own bubbling pots, used similar techniques to brew medicines and balms, borrowing Rome's all-based methods to capture the essence of herbs. You can almost see a monk in a dusty scriptorium, stirring a vat of lavender oil, unaware he's channeling Flavia's stubborn precision. Even today's perfumers, with their high-tech labs and synthetic notes, owe a debt to those Roman ungentarii. The art of blending base, middle, and top notes olive oil, rose, and a dash of myrrh started in workshops like Flavia's, where scent was wrestled into submission with fire and finesse. You smile, imagining her reaction to a modern perfume counter with its sleek bottles and chemical wizardry. Would she scoff at synthetic jasmine or secretly spritz on some Gucci just to see what the fuss is about? The legacy lives in language, too. The word perfume itself comes from Latin perfumum, meaning through smoke, a nod to the incense-heavy rituals that filled Rome's temples with frankincense clouds. Every time you say perfume, you're whispering a piece of Rome, a linguistic fossil of those smoky altars. And the names Susanum, Rhodanum, Crossanum carry echoes of the market's poetry, their exotic flair inspiring modern brands to dream up their own evocative labels. You think of Lucius, spinning tales of Egyptian priests to sell his nardinum, and realize he'd fit right in with today's marketing gurus, hyping up limited edition scents with the same charismatic grin. Rome's perfumers didn't just make fragrance, they invented the art of selling desire, a trick that still works in every glossy ad campaign. But the legacy isn't just about trade or craft, it's about culture. Perfume shaped Rome's rituals, from rose-drenched weddings to myrrh-heavy funerals, and those traditions lingered. Medieval Europe sprinkled rosewater at feasts, a direct descendant of Roman banquets. Renaissance nobles, obsessed with scent, bathed in oils that echoed Flavia's blends. Even today, when you catch a whiff of incense in a church or spritz rosewater at a spa, you're brushing against Rome's fragrant shadow. The market's social scenes matrons gossiping, poets preening, slaves dreaming set a template for how we use scent to define ourselves. You think of a modern influencer, dabbing on perfume before a big event, and realize they're not so different from that young poet in the Forum Boreum, hoping Nardinum would win him a patron. Scent is still our armor, our allure, our way of saying, I'm here, and I matter. Of course, Rome's perfume legacy wasn't all rosy. The obsession with exotic ingredients like silphium drove it to extinction, a cautionary tale about greed outpacing nature. You imagine Flavia sighing over her empty silphium jar, muttering about fools who took too much. The toxic side of some perfumes' lead-laced oils that poison the elite left a darker mark, a reminder that beauty can come at a cost. Yet even these missteps shape the future, teaching later perfumers to balance ambition with caution. Modern fragrances, with their safety regulations and synthetic substitutes, learned from Rome's mistakes, swapping crocodile dung for lab-made musk. You can't help but chuckle. Flavia would probably call that progress, but she'd miss the chaos of her beaver gland days. The market scandals, too, left a legacy. The poison perfume panic and Gaius's silphium scam taught Rome to demand authenticity, a lesson that echoes in today's obsession with natural and organic labels. You picture a modern shopper sniffing a bottle, checking for pure essential oils, and realize they're channeling the same skepticism as a Roman matron testing Flavia's myrrh. The rivalries between perfumers like Lucius and Cornelia pushed innovation, creating new blends that inspired centuries of experimentation. Their chaos agent energy Lucius's flashy hustles. Cornelia's defiant artistry lives on in every perfumer who dares to mix a bold new scent. Rome's market wasn't just a place. It was a mindset, a willingness to take risks for the sake of something beautiful. As you stand in the fading light of the Forum Boreum, the stalls growing quiet, you feel the weight of this legacy. The perfume trade wasn't just about smelling good. It was about Rome's soul, its hunger for connection, power, and immortality. Every vial sold here, every scandal whispered, every caravan braving distant lands, helped build a world where scent is more than a luxury. It's a story. You think of your own world, where a spritz of perfume can boost your confidence or spark a memory, and realize Rome's still with you. Would Flavia approve of your favorite scent, or would she roll her eyes and tell you to try harder? Would Lucius try to sell you a limited edition, vial with a wink and a tall tale? The thought makes you smile, because even now, centuries later, their spirit lingers in every bottle on a department store shelf. Now, let's get reflective. Would you have thrived in this fragrant world, navigating the market's chaos with a clever quip and a well-chosen scent? Could you have haggled with Lucius, outsmarted Cornelia, or dodged the fallout of a perfume scandal? Maybe you'd have been a perfumer, blending your own crossinum to dazzle the elite, or maybe you'd have stuck to plain olive oil, laughing at the absurdity of it all. Rome's perfume markets were a crucible of resilience where only the bold survived. You imagine yourself here, a stranger in a toga, picking a scent to define your place in this glittering, messy empire. What would it be, rose for romance, myrrh for mystery, or something wilder, like Flavia's beaver gland brew? The question lingers, as fragrant as the air around you, inviting you to dream of a world where every whiff was a chance to shine. Conclusion, reflective questions, and a soothing good night. The Forum Boreum is quiet now, the sun having slipped below the horizon, leaving the cobblestones bathed in the soft glow of twilight. The vibrant chaos of Rome's perfume markets has faded to a gentle hum, the stalls shuttered, the vendors gone home with their baskets of coins and vials. The air still carries a faint shimmer of scent, jasmine lingering like a whispered promise, myrrh settling like dust, and a hint of saffron that feels like a memory of sunlight. You stand alone in the emptying market, your sandals scuffed from a day of wandering, your senses still tingling from the dazzling whirlwind of Rome's fragrant world. From Flavia's fiery workshop to Lucius's charismatic hustles, from the gossip-fueled scandals to the glittering social scenes, you've lived a day in 100 CE, where perfume was more than a scent, it was the heartbeat of an empire. As the stars begin to peek out over the eternal city, it's time to reflect on what you've seen, to ponder your place in this scented saga, and to drift off with a soothing good night. Take a deep breath, one last time, and let the market's lingering fragrance wrap around you. The rose oil from a matron's spilled vial mixes with the smoky trace of frankincense, creating a perfume all its own, a blend of ambition, artistry, and just a touch of absurdity. You've walked through a world where scent was power, where a single whiff could mark you as a senator or a dreamer, a lover or a schemer. You've seen Flavia wrestle myrrh and saffron into submission, her hands scarred but steady, crafting elixirs that could make gods jealous. You've watched Lucius spin tales of Egyptian priests to sell his nardinum, his grin as bold as the empire itself. You've laughed at the scandals, Gaius's fake silphium, the poison perfume panicand, marveled at the market's role as a sanctuary, where Romans escaped their city's chaos to chase a perfumed dream. This wasn't just a market, it was a stage, a crucible, a mirror of Rome's glittering, messy soul. Now let's get introspective. Would you have thrived in this fragrant world? Picture yourself here, a stranger in a borrowed toga, navigating the Forum Boreum's dazzling chaos. Could you have haggled with Lucius, matching his wit to score a vial of Susanum without emptying your coin purse? Would you have stood up to Cornelia's sharp tongue, earning her respect by guessing the cinnamon in her secret blend? Or would you have been swept up in the market's drama, caught in a scandal over counterfeit crossinum, or sneezing through a banquet thanks to an overzealous splash of jasmine? Maybe you'd have been a perfumer yourself, blending a signature scent to rival Flavia's something bold, like myrrh with a twist of mint, to make the elite take notice. Or perhaps you'd have kept it simple, sticking to plain olive oil and laughing at the absurdity of it all, content to watch Rome's fragrant circus from the sidelines. Think about the resilience it took to survive this world. The perfumers, like Flavia and Lucius, were more than artisans. They were warriors, battling rivalries, scandals, and the relentless demands of a city obsessed with scent. The merchants who braved deserts for myrrh or seas for frankincense risked everything for a single jar. Even the plebs, pooling their coins for a shared vial of lavender, showed a stubborn determination to claim a piece of Rome's perfumed dream. Could you have matched their grit? Would you have dared to mix crocodile dung into a perfume just to see if the rich would pay extra for the shock value? Or would you have balked at the chaos, overwhelmed by the sensory overload of a city where every whiff was a power play? Rome's perfume markets were a test of nerve, where only the bold or the slightly unhinged thrived. You imagine yourself standing at a stall, a vial of rhododendron in hand, deciding whether to splash it on and join the game or slip away, unscented but unscathed. Let's talk about the absurdity of it all, because Rome's perfume craze was nothing if not gloriously over the top. Picture a senator drenching his toga in rose oil until he left a floral trail through the forum, like a peacock strutting through a garden. Or a gladiator, fresh from slaying a lion, pausing to spritz cyprinum to charm the crowd, because nothing says victory like smelling like a Cypriot meadow. You chuckle at the thought of matrons gossiping over over-perfumed rivals, their voices sharp as daggers, or vendors like Lucius selling God-kissed spikenard that was probably just crushed weeds. History is funny like that. It's a wild mix of brilliance and madness, where people poured fortunes into beaver glands and argued over saffron like it was the key to immortality. Rome's perfume markets were a perfect snapshot of this, a place where ambition met absurdity in a cloud of fragrance. You can't help but smile, wondering if we're really so different today, chasing our own versions of Nardenum in sleek bottles and glossy ads. As the market grows still, the last vendors packing away their wares, you feel a pang of connection to this world. The perfumes of Rome didn't just fade with the empire. They left a legacy that lingers in every spritz of modern fragrance, every whiff of incense, every rosewater splash at a wedding. The trade routes that brought myrrh to Flavia's workshop paved the way for global commerce. The techniques she honed inspired medieval apothecaries and today's perfumers. Even the word perfume, from Latin perfumum through smoke, carries Rome's echo, a reminder of those frankincense-filled temples. You think of your own favorite scent, maybe a citrusy cologne or a floral mist, and realize it's a distant cousin of Susanum or Crossanum, a modern twist on Rome's ancient obsession. Would you have fit into this fragrant world, or would you have shaken your head at its excesses, content with the simplicity of unscented air? The stars are brighter now, twinkling over the quiet Forum Boreum. You take one final breath, savoring the faint traces of rose and myrrh that cling to the air. This journey through Rome's perfume markets has been a dazzling dive into a world where scent was everything: power, love, scandal, and dreams. You've walked in the footsteps of perfumers, merchants, and dreamers, each chasing their own fragrant legacy. And now, as the city settles into night, it's time to carry that magic back to your own world. Would you have survived Rome's scented chaos, or would you have been lost in its whirlwind? What scent would you have chosen to define you: something bold like saffron, mysterious like myrrh, or simple like lavender, a quiet rebellion against the madness? The questions linger, as soft and inviting as the twilight around you. Thank you for joining me on this fragrant adventure, dear listener. Your presence has made this journey through Rome's markets all the more vibrant. If this story stirred your senses or sparked a smile, tap that like button, hit subscribe, and drop a comment below. Tell me, what scent would you have worn in ancient Rome? Would it be rose for romance, frankincense for divinity, or something entirely your own? As you settle back into your cozy space, your mug of lemon tea or sparkling juice now cool in your hands, let the echoes of the Forum Boreum lull you into a peaceful night. Dream of bustling stalls, daring perfumers, and a city where every whiff told a story. Good night, my friend. May your dreams be as sweet as Susanum and as bold as Rome itself.